Alright guys, how you guys doing? Welcome to Apple Weekly number 45, the show where I cover everything Apple over the past week, broadcasting both on YouTube and iTunes. Links are in the description. Before we get started, of course, as always, two sponsors, parcelmonkey.com and igear.com. Check them out. The first story is, and it's actually pretty cool news for developers, Apple is going to be hosting in 9 cities a developers conference or a developers one-on-one kind of dialogue. So you, if you're a developer, you can go up and ask whatever questions you have, any problems you have, any kind of tips, advice in relation to iOS 5. The teams are going to be visiting about 9 countries, as you can see on screen, so you may get lucky. It's free as long as you are registered as an Apple developer. No doubt that the app business is pretty big. You know, if you know what you're doing, a lot of people are making money in it, and if you are trying to break into that area, this is probably a good opportunity in visiting, trying to get some tips, especially if you are in the software side of things. And moving along, not really much of a story, but the iPhone 4S, the 16 gig model, the low end model, cost $188 US. And as you can see from this chart, the 32 gig and the 64 gig are priced kind of accordingly. This was released by iSupply. Of course, there is going to be some profit margin in it, otherwise why on earth would Apple be making it? So they're a business, they're there to make money, and it's the same price roughly as the iPhone 4. No surprise there because the design is the same. But the components inside, of course, are different. So it's really kind of interesting to see while they've got a dual core of i5, a better camera, a better sensor, and they're still making the parts are costing roughly the same, or the manufacturing process is costing them the same. But I guess by me showing you this, don't think Apple are going to budge down on their price, because I'm sure they won't. Moving along, the Steve Jobs biography. I know some of you aren't looking at me and instead looking at this bad boy down here. I did indeed pick this up yesterday, 22nd of October from London Heathrow, because they kind of launched it early. There was no queue, and I went to Terminal 1, picked it up because I was already in London, and I picked it up and it was a bit like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. I'm not much of a book guy. I can't remember the last time I started and finished a book. I've done quite a lot of university-based books, academic books, business or marketing type of books, but I've never read kind of a non-academic book. I can't remember anyway, but I'm determined to read this. I've read about 2 chapters so far, and no doubt over the next day or so I shall be finishing it. No spoilers, don't worry, but from what I've read so far, it is great. It takes you from right at the start, or that's where I am at the moment anyway, but it's really kind of interesting to read. But it might just be me, but I don't really like the material of the cover, so when you're holding it, it's pretty awkward. I know you can take it off, but I think I'll be getting, or opting for, at least my first iPad book on the iBook store. Apple released 10.7.2 for Line a few days back, addressing some issues, but instead of addressing them or fixing those issues, it's also brought in some additional issues as well, at least me anyway, and on forums, Apple support forums. And the problem that I seem to be having is it kind of loses my Bluetooth or devices, so my Apple keyboard and Magic Mouse, they just completely go off, and you can't use or do anything apart from restart the machine or power it off. There's been a lot of Wi-Fi issues, that's more widespread. So if you have recently upgraded to 10.7.2 and thinking it's a hardware issue, it isn't, it's software related. I'm sure Apple is working on it, but if you're having issues, because I am, on the iMac especially, let me know in the comments below if you're having any problems yourself. If you've managed to fix it somehow, I'd be very interested in kind of going over that. So here's a really cool story by the CEO of Softbank. He was having a chat with Tim Cook on the day of the iPhone 4S launch, and they were both having a casual chat. Tim Cook got a phone call, and Tim Cook said to the CEO, "Listen, I've got to go, son." And he's like, "Where you going, Tim?" And he's like, "My boss is calling me, I need to go." And he's like, "What?" And apparently Tim Cook said, "The boss is calling me in relation to our next product, and I really need to discuss it with him." And that was it, kind of thing, you know. And Tim Cook went off and met Steve Jobs. But it's really interesting, why would Tim Cook reveal in such great detail to the CEO? He could, I'm not saying he couldn't, but, and of course Tim Cook hasn't verified anything, or Apple hasn't said anything about this, but it's really interesting to see two things. Steve Jobs working on the last day. You know, the iPhone 4S was launched, and the day after that he passed away. So in his last moments kind of thing, he was still kind of breathing Apple. Of course, he left as CEO, but yet in the back of his mind he's got this illness and he's still thinking about Apple, thinking about what the next best thing is, or what market in essence is he going to kind of revolutionise, because he has revolutionised quite a few markets, the music, phones, tablets, you know, he's done quite a few. So was it the iPad 3 he was talking about? Was it the iPhone 5 redesign he was talking about? Was it an entirely new device that he was referring to? Or is the answer in this book here? I've not come to the last chapters as of yet, but I don't know why Steve Jobs would reveal the next 3 products in the book. That would be kind of pointless. That would be kind of going against what they've always done with marketing and how they've succeeded. Yeah, sure, there might be tips and so on, but I doubt if there'd be concrete evidence or information inside the book. And coming on to the meatiest of stories, and this was also a story last week, MacBook Pros were meant to come this week, but they're apparently coming in the next week. The internal part numbers, as I revealed last week, show that it's going to have the same design. It's just going to be an internal bump like an iPhone 4 to an iPhone 4S, only the kind of processors or the graphics card are going to most probably increase. Supplies are being further constrained at Apple resellers and Apple retail stores, and shipments are touching down at selected countries, and 9to5Mac even say that we might see it between Tuesday and Thursday. That has been actually pretty specific, but fingers crossed. And it's also been reported that Airport Express chipsets are being upgraded with better wireless chips, although they don't have a specific date on launch, but apparently it is in the pipeline. But one more thing. Apple's case manufacturer for the unibody MacBook Airs, the MacBook Pros, is in trouble. They have had to close the factories down, or the plants down in China, because of environmental issues. The company, or the factory, has released a statement saying that suppliers should expect, or clients should expect, a delay in receiving, you know, new machines. So could that mean that the next version of the MacBook Pros, not the current ones that are due to come out next week, but the following MacBook Pros, are going to be constrained? The Ivy Bridge chipsets, the next MacBook Airs, heck, even the current ones that are coming out or due to be coming out in the next week, or the current ones that are on Apple's retail stores you can buy now. Of course, if the company can't make it, then surely they are going to be in kind of trouble. They produce a large quantity or a large portion of Apple's MacBooks, and I guess we will really find out in the next few weeks in the run up to the holiday season, and indeed during the holiday season, as to how well Apple cope with supply chain. In any case, I really hope this isn't true, because if that is indeed the case, and that means we are going to see a delay in MacBooks and so on, which is not a good news, because that is what I kind of like to see, Macs over iOS win. But guys, that is it really for Apple Weekly. If you have any comments or abuse that you want to throw, you can always leave it in the comments below, or those of you watching on iTunes, you can leave it in the review part. That would be pretty cool. Before I go, I'll leave some footage of the Lit show which I was attending in London. They had kind of a Hall of Fame for Macs, and they had pretty retro stuff there, and it was generally a pretty good event. A short clip, enjoy it. Thanks very much, guys.